Hi, welcome to Bubbles and Breakdowns, a space designed for you to show up as your beautifully imperfect self, where we dive into the good, the bad, and the bubbly. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Katrina. And today, I don't know about you, Ashley, but I'm hungry.
Oh,
Should we have cake for dinner?
this is my favorite kind of dinner.
I mean, on Bubbles and Breakdowns, we're so excited to have the one and only Keesha Scott joining us today as our guest. Welcome, Keesha.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm excited.
We are so excited. So, just a little background if those of you haven't been a follower of Keisha's yet, which I encourage that you do, she is the co founder of Guardian Recovery, providing center based behavioral health care. She's a certified parenting coach, which I don't know, Ash, like I could use a
All the tips.
certified parenting coach.
All the tips.
And she's also an author and host of I'm going to call it beloved podcast, Cake for Dinner. So she's had guests like Hillaria Baldwin and Hillary Musser. And honestly, Keisha, just couldn't be more excited to have you with us and taking time out of your busy schedule. We're going to focus with you today about the art of the pivot, but especially as it relates to how you've personally turned some of your trauma into ultimately helping others, which I think is so beautiful. So let's start with the pivot. And let's just think about that whole phrasing we love, right? The art of the pivot. We've heard power of the pivot, but this is the art of the pivot. And I'd love to hear from you, Keisha. What has the art of the pivot meant to you in your life?
Well, I've recently dubbed it the art of the pivot. During those moments and times, it didn't feel like something that would ever be helpful to anybody. It really felt like digging myself out of a hole. So I just want to make sure if you're listening and you're in a tough time, it doesn't, when you're in that space, it doesn't feel like it's ever going to be anything great or beneficial. But for me, I feel like my whole life's been a bit of a pivot. I think part of it is because of who I am and sort of how I function in the world. I'm a little bit, wild and all over the place, and I've never been a real conformer to rules and things like that. So that by itself sort of leads you into a life where you have to pivot, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's part of it. The other big thing is that I got sober at 27, and I really identify that as probably my biggest, most beneficial pivot.
I love this whole life of sobriety. And it's a
Mhm.
topic we've actually talked on the podcast about quite a bit, and something that I have been managing and changing my relationship with alcohol. And I know, Ashley, you too. So nowadays, it's like this whole wildfire of everybody is becoming sober and sober curious and
Mhm.
sober mom life. And it used to be like drunk mom life, which I'm like, ooh, I don't want to be the drunk mom. I know that. But you've been sitting in this space for quite some time, and you did it when I would say it wasn't arguably cool to do. And so, what
Or
did that,
culturally
yeah,
normative, right?
people
Yeah.
weren't ready for it like they
Hmm.
are, I think, ready for it now. So like if you back up and I love that you kind of said like rebellion is in your DNA is what I heard. Like what did that look like when you were choosing the path that wasn't necessarily the path others were on or even supportive of? Like
Right.
how did you sit in that space at that time?
Yeah, not only was it not like popular, but it was very unpopular, really. And I would say was looked down upon in some ways. At the time I was 27, I was a pharmaceutical rep. Um, and it just wasn't something that I saw happening around me. My mom, however, sent me a New York Times article about Ben Affleck, who had just gotten sober. And she was so excited to report because I was like in love with him at the time. Um, but that was like a big deal for me. Like, holy shit, like this guy's doing it.
Yeah.
He has all the things in the world, all the resources and options. Um, but yeah, it didn't feel great. But I think, if you really get honest with yourself, sometimes things that are super beneficial don't feel great. I mean, the fucking gym doesn't feel great, you know?
Never.
Um,
Never.
so,
I know my legs
so
are sore right now as I sit here. I'm like,
yes,
I ran the 8 miles on my training plan, but I feel like a broken old lady. And like,
yes.
where's the glucosamine? But
So, doing hard things, I'd love to kind of get into that transition. And what do you think the hardest part of kind of shedding your old identity was? Did you feel like an imposter, or what was that challenge like?
Yeah, you know what? I have felt like an imposter my entire life, truly. I grew up in a family that's like pretty great. Everybody's like attractive and nice and fit and educated, and I've just always felt like the loser kind of, and in each element too. I felt like an imposter when I got sober as a pharmaceutical rep. Like if only these people knew. I felt like as an imposter as a mom, especially I was a single mom, a sober mom, like what a fucking weirdo in Carline, like I just never felt like I totally fit. um, I will tell you that my 50s, I'm only 1.5 years in, but has been the joy of my life, truly. Like I feel like I'm finally like in my skin, and I wish I would have spent much more time being proud of the choices that I have had made, rather than like feeling sort of out of place. But to answer your specific question, I've always kind of felt that way.
And what do you think it is about 50 that made you feel grounded, that made you feel like this is Keesha and this is who I am and this is awesome?
Well, a few things. Getting sober, I started to connect with women, like myself, that had made a slew of bad choices, or who've had obstacles and things to overcome. And the more open I was about myself, the more I noticed people connected with me. So rather than like being the pharmaceutical rep who like try, well, first of all, I've never been good at keeping it buttoned up anyway, so I don't think I was even doing a good job, but like I was trying. I remember one time I was in Target. I don't know, I was sober maybe like 6 months or something, and I saw a woman from Alcoholics Anonymous, and I will obviously keep her name anonymous, but she said to me, "Oh my gosh, I love it when you share." And at first I was like, okay, but she was like, when you talk about what a mess you are and how messy your car is, I feel so like seen. And I was like a little like, ew, like that's not at all the wisdom I was trying to impart on the group. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
But over time, I started to realize, like, oh, me just being me, like legitimately me, is bringing in more connection than all this like facade of me, or like trying to be something I'm not. And that's really when I started to realize, oh, I could just be me.
I love that you talked about how you had this maybe perception in your family. And I often like have talked about with a lot of my close people. I,
Mhm.
I got blessed with being this like round faced blonde girl, which, you were too or are. And it got me maybe things, right? It's a privilege. Like we look nice. We look, people think we're like these pristine little people. At least I felt this way. And I was like, I was not that. I was also a very rebellious, teen. Had bouts of promiscuity. I had a lot of like rough edges. And I feel like, however, society kind of reflected back myself, and like you almost felt like you had to
Mhm.
be that thing that they thought you were. And what an
Mhm.
amazing place to finally go, oh, actually, those unpolished parts are the parts people like about me. And I'm getting there. I'm only 42, so looking
Yeah.
forward to 50, Keisha. But I just think there's so much in this because I think we often rise to what society
Mhm.
thinks we should be.
Mhm.
And so when you think about another pivot in your life, so you're a pharma rep, right? Like you're out there, you're doing the thing. And yeah, I can imagine like being sober is difficult because that culture, I've actually lived in it too. And a lot of people just like belly up to the bar at night, and like that's where they forge friendships, and like they deal with their travel and they take it
Mhm.
out in a drink. Um, but like when did you start shedding that, or when did you have a pivot within your career? What did that look like?
Not for a while. So I got sober. That was my job. I was a single mom. I got pregnant with twins, and my husband left me. And I had to have a job. And that's the job that I was, comfortable in, and that I understood and knew. So there were a lot of options for me in the beginning. I was never great at the job. I'm great. I've learned that I'm great with people, just talking and being myself, right? Like that's where I'm comfortable. I love people. I love like understanding how people tick. I'm not great at following up. I'm not like crazy organized, so like I would go in and the doctor might enjoy my company, but like I wouldn't ask for the business. So like, that that sort of was never of interest to me. And I'm also not, I've learned in my age or my time on earth that I'm not I don't have that built in thing, do it because you're supposed to. Like, I have to enjoy
Mm-hmm.
something, I
Hmm.
would have been a terrible factory worker. Um, so, it really evolved over time.
Yeah. And then
Hmm.
you eventually pursued your degree in psychology. So,
Yes.
like, that's also a huge time commitment. So, I'm already hearing like single mom,
Hmm.
you have twins, you're expecting twins, you're now dealing with this divorce. And then eventually I know you remarried, you had a child with that person.
Hmm.
And but then when did you say, okay, I have the time or the strength or the energy to go back to
Right.
school?
And even kind of stay in this field, right? Like kind of staying in that, in your messy, if you will,
Yes.
right? And being
Yes.
connected to that, I think is really powerful because you're not running, right? You're kind
Yes.
of facing and helping. And that's love to hear on that.
Yeah, like I've never had like some big grandiose plan. I've kind of just like do what's in front of me. And, I met my current husband. He and I founded Guardian Recovery in 2008. And so I started helping him really in this like helping space. At that time, I'm sober. I'm helping women in AA. So I'm doing all these things and I'm enjoying them. And then I'm going to work doing something that like I don't hate it because I talk to people all day, but I'm
Mhm.
not passionate about selling medication. I'm just not,
Mhm.
right? So he said, why don't you just quit the job and get your master's? That's what you want to do. And mind you, we weren't even married at the time. I'd already had like a completely shit show of a first marriage, but this is where I'm wild, Like
Keisha
I'm
gone
like,
wild.
fuck it. Okay. Um, so I did. And I started kind of working at our facilities and helping more with that. I got my master's degree at night. Mind you, I had two little kids. He had just moved in. I mean, we were just making it work. And I'm sure my parents were like, oh my goodness, but I think they felt that many times in my life. But it felt like the right thing to do, and I was super excited about it. So I actually got my master's degree while pregnant with my third child, got married
Wow.
during the process. But it sounds so like heroic and laborious,
I get
and not
it.
like, but nothing in my life really goes like that because I probably studied a little less than other people. I was like putting shit together, writing the paper last minute. Um, but, I was also like feeding myself all this good stuff. I'd never gotten good grades in my entire life. And I was like a good student, like I couldn't even believe it. I remember the first test they passed out. I'm like a grown 40-year-old woman pregnant. And I'm thinking like my first thought was like, oh my goodness, like how am I going to cheat? And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm a grown woman. I actually studied. I don't need to, but I had never had an experience like that, like being prepared, like
Mm,
liking school. So
Mhm.
really for me, it was such a gift to be able to go back to be with somebody who said, you know what, this is going to kill us financially, but let's just do it.
Totally. And you're chasing your purpose, right?
Yes.
Like
So
this,
much different when you're doing that.
so much different.
I love this because I feel so much of these things and I've gone back and forth like I don't really need to work and why am I doing this still? And I even had this conversation last night. And so what I loved about your story, I'm
Did
just
you
like,
just
what?
whisper that to
I was
us?
like, what? I was like, what am I
Oh, there's
doing?
a mic here.
Yeah, exactly. So, but point being is like what you just said, that fuck it energy of being like, all right, this might be the chance. And the fact that you moved through the fear. And I think that's where your story is so inspiring to me personally because you did that leap. And yes, you had
Hmm.
a supportive significant other and not diminishing. It was an integral part of that story, but you are going for it and you continue to go for it. And also you're helping people not just within your certified parenting coach and your master's in psychology, but also as you're a podcaster, like and being generous with your time and your thoughts. And so I just
Mhm.
want to say like that energy is so I don't know, just refreshing and inspiring. And that's part of why we wanted to have you here.
I'm bringing fuck it energy to
Yes.
everything I do because it's
Yeah,
true.
fuck it.
And And I think how cool now, and I wonder, excuse me, reflecting on back what you've said around, I hate to keep bringing up 50, but I feel like you're proud to be 50 and I'm proud to be
I am.
40, but I almost wonder if now you're thriving in this because of these other channels that you
Mhm.
can connect with other women and say, it's not just through AA. It's not
Yeah.
just through Guardian Recovery, right? It is tune into my IG live stream and this book that's amazing. How cool that these are the times you get to these more channels.
Yeah, what's interesting is like I think I was born this way. Like I think this is who I am, but for so many years, you're kind of trying to figure out yourself and how you fit and where you should land. And most of what I'm exuding now that I'm getting so much feedback about is a personality type that I felt bad about for at least 2 decades, right? Like being a little unfiltered, being a little unorganized, shooting from the hip. Um, my brother called me recently and he's as buttoned up as one could be. We are like polar opposites, and he's talking to me about when he retires and what he's going to do, and how he's already starting to plan for that. But like doesn't even like land with me. Like I can't even imagine it. I will figure that out the day before I retire. And what I've come to realize, and I'm not recommending this life for anybody, but I'm just saying that I'm so excited to be me today. Like, I
Mm.
realize now that this is the personality I got, and it's really a great one because I
Hmm.
am not giving a shit really most of the time. I worry a lot about my kids,
Of
probably way
course.
too much for
Hmm.
my nervous system. Other than that, I don't really care. And it is refreshing. It's a really wonderful way to live. And I wish when I look at my younger self, I wish I could have realized that 20 years ago, but my goal now is to package it and to give it to other people.
So thinking about giving it to other people,
Right.
something that we talk about, and everyone, I feel like everyone's thinking about this at these ages, perhaps, Keisha, is the trauma handoff. There's
Mm.
this whole belief of some people are like, it's genetic. You do inherit some of this generational, and I believe there's validity to that. I'm not a scientist, but I believe there's validity. But then there's also like the ways in which we operate. Like, for
Hmm.
example, I keep too clean of a house, and what is that doing to my children and making them think that they have to clean all the time or they have stress related to dirty environments? Like, how do you take some of, that in your mind? Okay, like you said, it's unhealthy for your nervous system. You're worrying about your kids a lot.
Hmm.
But what
Mhm.
have you done, knowing all the things that you know, to kind of stop that trauma handoff in the way that you live?
Hmm. Well, I mean, I think as moms, we should always be trying to level up.
Hmm.
When I get anxiety or like I get, triggered, like triggered's like such a negative word. I heard recently, I interviewed a woman, Jessica Baum, and that wrote anxiously attached. And I can't remember the word she used, but she basically positioned it more as an alert, like a hey,
I like
right?
that way
Like,
better.
Ew.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not a negative thing. It's just like your body or whatever letting you know like, hey, this is an area where you could level up. So I
Hmm.
do think as moms, we're all doing that. My thing is you have a very different personality, right? You have a clean house and you're worrying how that. I have the opposite, right? I step over clothes in the bathroom and then like I see my kids doing that. So, but we're all passing, we're all passing something down. But I
Hmm.
think if we can say, hey, this is part of me, this is what I'm doing to work on it,
Hmm.
if we can know ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
always be trying to level up, that's what we should be passing down, the desire to level up, and less focus on where we see ourselves falling short, because who really gives a shit? Everybody has deficiencies, everybody's working on
Mm-hmm.
something.
Totally.
And
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is that your kids are going to come to you with a deficiency. I have 3 kids and they have 3 different deficiencies, but they also have a lot of really great shit. And as I've learned to embrace myself, which sad for them, it didn't happen when they were 5, I'm learning to embrace them. And rather than looking at those deficiencies, like I'm looking at all the good stuff that goes with that.
Yeah,
And like, hey, we all have stuff to work on, but kind of thank God. What the hell else are we gonna do?
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I know. And
Jinx.
I'm just like the trigger thing for some reason. You know how you
So
just need to
good, right?
hear someone say it to be like,
Yes.
duh. And like you said, it's like almost like my inner iPhone is texting me, hey, here you have an alert.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
chill out, right?
Pick
Like,
up
or
pick up your
Yes.
kid from
truly,
school.
and I think one of the biggest things I noticed too, and just I'm reflecting so much on what you've said, is I think us too just identifying or noticing that we need to level up or there's things we need to work on
Yes.
means we're trying.
Mhm.
Yes. And that's worth so much. But I really like the, and I don't actually wish there was another word for it, but like I love the whole fuck it thing, right? Like
Hmm.
Mhm.
when I think I might have been like 22. I don't know. I lived in South Beach with this girl and she was a model like everybody else on the planet. I was the only one there, by the way, with a job that had to get up in the morning. And very long story, but she had this boyfriend who she wanted to break up with, and they had shared this apartment. And I kind of took over his spot while he was away modeling. And he was coming home, and she was so worried and so anxious. So I took like, I don't know, 100 post-it notes and I wrote fuck it and I put them all over the house. Okay. And so the whole week before, I was like, you know what? Every time you see it, just fuck it.
Yeah,
So
good reminders.
Totally.
the funniest part was before he came, he was very like uptight and very straight and didn't curse and all these things. So she was so nervous. So she took them all down before he came. And she forgot one behind the bathroom door. And when he got out of the shower or whenever he was in the bathroom and he shut the door, he saw it. So that's just like a funny reminder for me that I've had this mentality
Hmm.
since forever. It just wasn't popular in my life. Like people sort of saw me as like a rule breaker or whatever. But I think if we can all just embrace ourselves,
Yeah.
it's
Totally.
just a better strategy.
And I think that relates directly to cake for dinner, right?
Yes.
It
Yes.
is implies a sense of joy and you're breaking those rules in a healthy way.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'd love to hear your take on how do we find this joy or this fuck it mentality when we are in the thick of it?
Mhm.
Like I could do
I
the post-its, but it's like they're on a daily basis with us both with little ones and
yes.
Katrina, high pressure job. I'm a stay-at-home mom now, but I wasn't always like it's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot. I think I just interviewed a woman named Sarah Strimmel Bentley, I think is her last name. And she talks about joy mining. She calls it joy mining. She went through cancer, in vitro fertilization, like just this like wild story. And she talks about finding joy even in those times. Look, it's an action. It's a choice to try to do it. And it's not always easy. But I think,
Yeah.
to be honest, that the way I've learned it is through hardship. And like that sucks.
Mhm.
Like hopefully no one's listening. They're like, ooh. But I've been through some rowdy stuff. I mean, I was left 6 weeks pregnant with twins. So like you have to pull yourself up and find a way out of that. And I think being able to find gratitude, it's the only way I've ever been able to get out.
Mhm.
Yeah. So when you look at that phrase cake for dinner, what comes to my mind as a mom is like a little bit of the fuck it, but it's also like, I don't want to cook. Here's some cake. Like you know what I mean? Like sit down, eat your cake, be happy,
And
smile,
enjoy
and
the
enjoy
cake,
the cake.
right?
And so when I
Yeah.
think about that, it's also like a little bit of the pivot where, hey, yeah, some nights you're going to make this perfectly balanced, nutritious meal for your children, but sometimes you just need to have cake for dinner. And
Yes.
like, that's that. I mean, and I don't know, like, that's the vibe that I get as I, follow this podcast and hear what you have to say. And I think there's a lot of beauty there. And it really can show our children that you don't have to be the buttoned up perfect
Yes.
mom, but you
Mhm.
do need to be regulated and know when to stop and like serve cake for dinner.
Mhm.
Yeah. Perfection's boring. I tell my kids that all the time. It's
Mhm.
boring. Like who even wants to strive for that? I mean, the title really is a mix of things. My husband helped me really land on the title, but my whole life, my dad is a scientist. Actually, he's a professor, but he also likes to bake. Everyone in my family bakes. And anytime I've really battled life, he bakes me cakes. So when my husband left and I went and lived with my parents pregnant, he would put my fat ankles up on, this little stool and he would bake me cakes. And
Mm.
so, it is a little bit of a nod to my dad. But also, in my toughest moment, I did pivot, and sometimes it was cake for dinner. And as a single mom, sometimes it is cake for dinner. But I think if we can all adopt that idea that it doesn't have to be just so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is that anomaly of like, you don't have, no, why would you have cake for dinner? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
dare you have cake for dinner? It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna have cake for dinner. And I love on your website too, and we'll post it in the show notes for the listeners that your dad's famous German chocolate
Chocolate
cake,
cake?
which I was like, I need to make this.
Same.
Sounds
Yes. It was
amazing.
it was like I had to text my family on the group chat and be like, does anyone care if I give this recipe away?
Totally.
Um, but I just really felt like I'm just sharing it all. I mean, my book's got some rowdy stories in it that like I feel like my kids are gonna be horrified by, but I felt like it's now or never. I'm going
Right.
all in.
I love
Totally.
this. So I don't know. I think Ash, we could take it to, we've got some rapid fire kind of
Great.
questions that
Yeah,
we think
Let's
would be a
go.
great way to kind of tail end this conversation with you. So let's start
totally.
with, we're big on mantras. Like,
Huge.
I mean, I think about when you're running or when you're doing anything hard, like what do you say? But this one I want to know is like, maybe it doesn't apply as much because you're unabashedly being you in your 50s. But when you had an urge to maybe slip back into old patterns or you were digging through like a really tough project and you were just not showing up the way that you want to show up. Is there something that you harness around? Is there a mantra, Keisha, that you rely on? Maybe it's fuck it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's like maybe I've had one since I was in high school. My brother wrote this on every card he ever gave me, and stay true to yourself. And
Mm,
I really value that because at the end of the day, no matter what I'm struggling with, no matter what I'm battling, I am pretty confident that if I just stay true to myself, to my values, things are going to shake out at the very least, however they're supposed to.
I
Mm-hmm.
love that. And that speaks a lot to like owning your own identity and being able to be like very comfortable in your own skin. And that's awesome. I like your brother. He sounds like a cool guy.
Will he send me a
I
card?
I probably could get him to. I was obviously, as I mentioned, a little troubled as in the youth era, and he would write me these cards, and he would always tell me, no matter what other people do, people can lie, cheat, and steal, and lay their head on the pillow and go straight to sleep. It's not a
Yeah.
problem for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's not who you are, you're going to struggle. And it was almost like it was great information and advice, but it also totally fucked me up when I was trying to do bad things. You know what I mean? Because I'd be like, oh, like that, like stuck with me big time.
I
Mm-hmm.
love it. So you mentioned leveling up. So when
Mhm.
you think about what's your next level, like I feel
Mhm.
you've had so many wonderful levels just in this conversation you've shared with everyone, but what's the next level for you? Like where are you setting your sights on?
Um, I mean, if we're talking about like dreams and goals, I mean, I hope to be on a New York Times bestseller. That's my big goal. And my ultimate goal is that I can give younger women the freedom and the permission to just breathe easy and not spend 20 years feeling inadequate in this space as a mom.
Yeah, that's
Well,
beautiful.
I already feel it from this conversation. So if that's saying anything, all right, I'm going to pivot to
Okay,
parenting a little bit because this
great.
is something that I am in the thick of, a 5 and a 2-year-old. And I would love to know what's one piece of advice you can offer for people in these early years that we might need for future years ahead to kind of
And Keisha, don't tell us it gets worse. I mean,
that's
come on.
gonna
I
be
know
the
it does,
answer.
but just don't tell us.
Well, one trick is to, we're at the end of the day, we're just like the bumpers on the bowling alley. It's like when your kids are little, you're doing so much physical stuff that you get this idea that somehow you're gonna really guide this ship like as the driver. And it's not really how it turns out. So I wish when I had a 5 and a 2-year-old, which I never did, 2 5-year-olds, but I wish I would have been able to really truly get down with whoever they are, right? And because we're so busy fitting into this like world as moms, our children, and looking back, I was always hustling and trying to like help them or get them here or do this or do that, rather than spending more time identifying what are their attributes, where do
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
excel? I'll tell you this quick thing. My 12-year-old, he's wild. And can you imagine? And we were recently on Fridays, we feed the homeless. And this woman came up to me and she's like, I'm a retired teacher. And I just want to tell you, he is so great. And I'm like, well, he's not great in every environment. And she said, who gives a shit? He's great in this environment. And that's so good to know. And I was like,
Oh,
dang, like genius. And that on my great days, I am rooted in that. I am rooted in seeing where they thrive and sort of steering the ship that way. On my bad days, I worry about where they're deficient.
yeah. That
I
is
love
so
that.
well put.
And I think too, getting out in different environments, perspective is everything. Hearing it
Yes.
from somebody else, just like I said, like even the triggered word, right? You're like, oh, I feel better not even hearing triggered, right? It's like, because
Yes.
that makes my nervous system worse to hear that word, right?
Yes. Everyone's.
Yeah, but that's so, I love that. And I'm definitely going to heed that advice going forward. Okay, so our most important question of the day.
Oh,
We
geez.
we need to know,
Need to know this.
what is your favorite combination flavor of cake out there?
I mean, my favorite cake is my dad's German chocolate
I
cake.
knew
I
it.
knew it
Hands
too.
I had a bet
down.
on it.
And when he makes it, he makes extra icing on the side. It is delightful. And it
Oh,
literally, I mean, I don't drink, so I don't get to escape with a glass of wine. So,
Hmm.
I asked my friend once, how much sugar do you have to eat to like forget your fucking problems? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like, German chocolate cake is close.
So
It's a way out.
before this recording today, I was just like, I don't know why, but I just like want a bite of cake. And I think it's like this subliminal messaging or whatever. But
Yes.
I had those little like muffins, like those chocolate fudge ones. And I was like, I don't eat enough cake, Keisha.
no.
Like, I
Yeah.
need to eat more cake. I mean,
And now we're gonna make this recipe because especially my husband's German, they're gonna flip. We have this
They're
thing
gonna
every
flip.
every October, we have an Oktoberfest party. So
Of
I think I
course.
have to make the cake,
I love this.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I would like to ask just one more final question before we close, Keisha.
Mhm.
And I love that you were kind of talking to your past self, but I also want to know what you would be saying to maybe people like us or people who are just on the verge of becoming who they are as a mother or a career woman or that, finding themselves. Is there some advice you could give us?
Yeah, just be in it. Life is rich, and I think Glennon Doyle calls it brutal. It's brutal and it's beautiful all at the same time. And much like a lot of things, you can't have one without the other.
Right.
So if you're going to dull the pain, you dull the beauty. So I try so hard just to be in it. And one of my girlfriends always says, in this moment, and finish the sentence. Like if you're having a shitty day, in this moment, the day's shitty, but that doesn't
Right.
mean a whole lot. But also in this moment, I'm enjoying this podcast, your perspective, this moment, and that's beautiful. So I try to just stay rooted in the moment.
That is such fantastic advice. I
I
feel
love
like
it.
it's so overwhelming to look past the current moments and
Mhm.
like
Yes.
it's also what Ashley, you gave me a gift for my 40th birthday and it said stop and smell the roses on the bracelet. And
Mhm.
it's so
Smell 'em.
true. Like we need to do more of that. Well, Keisha, this has been an absolute joy for us. We did some joy digging to this morning
Yes.
and we
Joy
found
mining.
some joy mining. Sorry, thank you. But I just want to also say to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And I hope that this has resonated, that you found something in here that maybe motivates you to level up, that allows you to pivot when you need to pivot, gives you permission to serve cake for dinner, like invitation. You don't need to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. And
No.
frankly, it is boring, Keisha. I love that.
Yeah, and permission to say fuck it.
Fuck it.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
okay,
So let's
right?
bring that energy
Yes.
into this week. What are you going to say fuck it to? Don't like, like let's keep it classy, people, but
Yeah.
let's bring some fuck it energy. So, and remember everyone that after every breakdown,
Don't forget the bubbles. Well, Keisha, thank you so much. And please check out Cake for Dinner. We've got the podcast, we've got the Instagram, we've got the soon to be book coming out, which we
Yes.
know we cannot wait to dig our hands into
forks,
and
our
minds into
forks.
and our forks and everything that we can dig with. If you're loving bubbles and breakdowns, please listen to us to wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify. Check us out on Instagram, leave us this love note. And Keisha, we can't wait for more Cake for Dinner.
Cheers,
Thanks,
everyone.
ladies. This was
Thank
wonderful.
you.